Welcome to Washington Maritime Careers. I'm Ann Avery, Director of the Center of Excellence for Marine Manufacturing and Technology. With me today to talk about the Jones Act is American Waterways Operators President and CEO, Jennifer Carpenter. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Ann.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. I think the first thing to do is to ask you to share a little bit about American Waterways Operators, AWO, going forward in the interview, and your members.
Absolutely. So AWO as a trade association is 80 years old this year. We are very proud of that. Our membership represents the tugboat, towboat, and barge industry. So we are the largest share of the U.S. domestic maritime industry. And AWO's mission, this is a bit of a mouthful, but I'm going to just roll it off the top of my head because it just says it so well. We are the tugboat, towboat, and barge industry's advocate, resource, and united voice for safe, sustainable, and efficient transportation on America's waterways, oceans, and coasts.
Awesome. That's great. Actually, it's a perfect segue to the next question then, because it is a large organization that's national. Can you talk to us a little bit about the priorities, the current priorities of AWO?
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to kind of capture those three buckets: advocate, resource, united voice. So advocacy is the heart and soul of what we do. We want to create and foster the kind of public policy climate where our members can do their important work for the country. So what does that mean? That means protecting and spreading the good word about the Jones Act. That means advocating for a robust, modern, well-maintained ports and waterways infrastructure and making sure that we are all peacefully and safely coexisting in our shared maritime environment. It means making sure that regulations that govern our industry really achieve the goals of keeping people safe and keeping the environment clean, and they don't, while well-intentioned, stymie efficiency, productivity, innovation. So those are the kinds of things we advocate for. And then in our role as resource, we help members to be safe, to be sustainable, and to understand what's going on in this, very noisy, chaotic information environment we're in. So we are a trusted source of safety resources and best practices, sustainability tools, and information and analysis that members can use to kind of cut through the clutter. Okay, what do I have to do? What are leading practices in this area? And then united voice, in that loud, crazy, sort of competitive public policy space, AWO is a place where members can come together and amplify our voices, telling policymakers, the public, the next generation of industry employees about the work our industry does.
That is awesome. I love the chaotic and noisy part. That's so true. It's so true. And AWO is and continues to be such an important leader in the effort to maintain the Jones Act. Jennifer, can you talk to us a little bit about what the Jones Act is all about and why it's so important to the tug and barge industry and our country overall?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think of the Jones Act as really one of our country's oldest homeland security laws. And so what it says, as you know, is that cargo moving between two U.S. points, whether that's inland, coastal, non-contiguous between the West Coast and Alaska and Hawaii, needs to move on vessels that are American owned, American crewed, and American built. The Jones Act is important to our industry because it is literally the basis for every dollar that our members invest in American built vessels. It is the basis for every job that they provide to American men and women. And from a national perspective, the Jones Act ensures that we as the United States maintain control of our domestic supply chain. That's important for our homeland security, for our economic security, for our national security. I think, supply chain, reliability, were maybe things that sounded a little wonky, a little academic to people, 4 or 5 years ago. And between the pandemic and geopolitical tensions around the world, I think they seem a lot more real now, and folks are understanding, oh yeah, it makes a lot of sense that we would want to make sure that it's American vessels who are moving cargo on our internal and our coastal waters.
Absolutely. And I think that, folks listening to this that are in Washington State are going to want to understand more about the impact of the Jones Act on Washington State. In the past year, the Washington State Senate passed a resolution recognizing the importance of the Jones Act to Washington State, which was very important. Can you talk a little bit about the economic impact of the Jones Act in Washington?
Yeah, absolutely. Washington is an extremely important maritime state. So there are 22,500 jobs in Washington state created by the Jones Act nationwide, 650,000 jobs. And these are not just jobs, these are family wage careers where a young person can come into the industry green, no experience, just, a desire to work hard and make a difference and be making a six-figure salary, in a matter of 6, 7 years. It is a huge opportunity. When you look at the state overall, $6.1 billion pumped into Washington's economy every year by the domestic maritime industry, on the basis of these ground rules set by the Jones Act. Nationally, it's $154 billion in economic output. So just really important economically for the state and for the country.
We need to get those numbers into every classroom in the state for sure.
Yes.
Absolutely. Recently I had the opportunity to interview Sloan Paris from Foss Offshore Wind. She was absolutely fantastic about building that industry from the ground up. It's obviously a huge opportunity for the maritime industry and the United States overall. Can you talk a little bit about how the Jones Act factors into the development of offshore wind?
Yeah, absolutely. Offshore wind really is the biggest new opportunity for the domestic maritime industry in a generation. And the Jones Act is so important because it helps to create the stable, certain business climate that is necessary for vessel owners to make the big investments in equipment to serve this new industry, which, as you said, is being built from the ground up. So, we didn't have a whole fleet of vessels sitting on the shelf, sitting in the parking lot, ready to serve offshore wind turbines that didn't exist. We have to build those. And one of the things, besides contracts with developers, that gives businesses the assurance that, yep, this is going to be a good investment is the Jones Act, is knowing that, the rules of the game apply. It's also really important because it ensures that this new industry is going to be an American industry. We're going to be able to learn from, Europe and other places that are a little bit ahead of us in terms of building out offshore wind. But, the jobs and the vessels and the opportunities are going to be homegrown, and they're going to be things that really benefit Americans here. And that's why the Jones Act is so important.
It's really exciting, isn't it? I mean, there's just so much on the horizon. And I think that's part of the fun of working in this industry. And we know that how important the Jones Act is. It's critical to maintaining America's political strength, our economic power, and our national security. For those who want to learn more going forward, where can they learn more or even perhaps get involved?
Absolutely. So one of the other hats that I wear, my side hustle, is as president of the American Maritime Partnership. And AMP, to give you another acronym, is a pan-industry pro-Jones Act coalition in which AWO members and staff are key players. The AMP website, AmericanMaritimePartnership.com, is a fantastic resource for all things Jones Act. And right at the top of that website, you will see a button that says Voices. Click on that. You can sign up to get updates, to get information. It's kind of a, in case of emergency, break glass. We can send alerts out to folks in this industry who care about this industry and invite them to contact their legislators on key issues. We're not going to spam you. We're not going to send you a bunch of stuff just to sort of tell you that we exist, but it's a really important way to just make your voice be heard.
That is fantastic. And as always, the time goes by way too fast. So in closing, first of all, I want to say what a pleasure it's been to meet you. It's an absolute pleasure, and to talk with you. And Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to learn more about AWO, and obviously it's great to learn more about the Jones Act, and we really appreciate your time.
Oh, thanks so much. This is a labor of love for me. So appreciate being with you. Take care.
Thanks, you too.